Hello and welcome to the Football News Zone. It's a new year and that means that the January transfer window is officially open. But which stories have been grabbing our attention this week? This week we ask whether footballers should be paid purely based upon their performances, we react to Wayne Rooney's Plymouth sacking, plus we've got the latest transfer gossip at the start of the show as well. All that and a whole lot more is coming up in today's show. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Football Chronicles Daily Transfer Roundup, the show where we round up all the biggest done deals and transfer rumours throughout this entire January 2025 window. These are the biggest rumours, gossip and confirmed deals for the 5th of January 2025. So we'll start with Liverpool, where they have rejected a £15 million bid from Crystal Palace to sign Ben Doak. The 19-year-old Scottish midfielder is currently on loan at EFL Championship side Middlesbrough. The Reds have also rejected a £16 million bid from Ipswich Town for Doak as well, and would prefer him to stay at Middlesbrough through the rest of the season. Liverpool apparently won't consider any offers of less than £30 million for their midfielder. Clearly someone that is very highly rated for the future of Anfield. Next up, we look to Arsenal. Apparently they are exploring a January move for Wolves' Brazil striker Matheus Cunha. Wolves are working on signing Cunha to a longer deal though, and I imagine Cunha will only go for a very significant fee. We're talking probably at least £50 million or so, because he is so vital in Wolves' season. He's really been the standout player for them. Despite some disciplinary issues that we saw against Ipswich Town, his goals have been vital in keeping Wolves above the dotted line, and if they're to stay up this season, they really need to tie him down to a longer term deal. We'll see what happens with that. Saudi Pro League club Al Shabab are confident in agreeing a deal for Wolves' 31-year-old Gabonese midfielder Mario Lemina during this transfer window. Speaking of Wolves, they also hope to complete a £15 million signing of Reims' 27-year-old Ivory Coast centre-back Emmanuel Agabdu next week, which could be a very vital signing in trying to keep them in the Premier League this season. Manchester City, meanwhile, they've not had any done deals yet, but they're apparently looking for the Uzbek defender Kusanov, who currently plays for Lyon over in France. Fee is yet to be agreed for the Uzbekistani defender though. Napoli have just gone top of Serie A over in Italy, and they have apparently expressed an interest in signing Chelsea's 18-year-old winger Carney Chukwuemeka, who is valued at only £30 million. Now, that is a lot of money by Serie A standards. That'll be a lot of money for Napoli to actually sign him for that. But I tell you what, that is an absolute bargain. I thought he would be worth a lot more than that, to be honest, for the Stamford Bridge club. But of course, good old PSR and FFP playing a part there. And speaking of which, Newcastle United, now they want to make some new signings, of course, but despite recording a profit for the first time in 5 years in their most recent published accounts for the 2023-24 season, they still need to sell players to bring any in during this window. Otherwise, they will fall foul of the regulations and presumably get some sort of fine and or a points deduction as a result. Meanwhile, Fulham, they have rejected an offer of £16.5 million for their player Andreas Pereira from Brazilian club Palmeiras. Of course, Brazil these days really spending heavily when it comes to their league. Some calling it the Premier League of South America, and when it comes to the finances, they are absolutely dominant, just like the English Premier League is in Europe, and in truth, the world as well to an extent. Brentford, their 23-year-old English winger Keane Lewis Potter is apparently close to agreeing a new contract. I believe he scored today as well in the 5-0 thumping of Southampton on the south coast earlier on today. Next up, let's head to Turkey. Turkish club Trabzonspor want to get Southampton striker Paul Onuchu, the big, tall Nigerian striker. I tell you what though, he is a really good player. I've liked him. I'm surprised he's not featured more with how bad Brereton Diaz is this season, to be honest. So yeah, but apparently they are only willing to pay £4.2 million for that, and the Saints want £8.3 million for the 30-year-old Nigerian striker. Speaking of Southampton, Ben Brereton Diaz is apparently close to agreeing a loan move back to Sheffield United over in the EFL Championship. Ollie McBurney is also on the the radar of the Blades as well, a former Sheffield United player who was very much fallen out of favour at Las Palmas over in La Liga in Spain. Keeping me to some Championship news as well, but also staying in Yorkshire as well. Leeds United are ready to bid for Coventry City's English midfielder Ben Sheaf in January. Their Championship rivals would only listen to offers of £80 million or over though, but with the Whites trying to head back to the Premier League, that could be an investment that they very much need to get that promotion over the line. St Johnstone apparently want to sign Liverpool and Scottish right back Calvin Ramsey on loan after his loan spell at Wigan in EFL League One was cut short earlier this season. But yeah, there we go, guys. Those are the biggest transfer rumours and confirmed deals for 2000 and the 5th day in the transfer window in 2025. How's your club looking? I want to hear your thoughts about these rumours and done deals in the comments below. So unsurprisingly, Wayne Rooney has been sacked from his position as Plymouth Argyle manager with immediate effect. The Pilgrims are bottom of the Championship and in an absolutely rotten run of form right now. They are currently 4 points off of safety, more than a win away from safety, who of course Hull City in 21st position, Plymouth on 18 points, bottom of the Championship by 2 points behind Portsmouth. Yeah, their run of form recently has been absolutely shocking to say the least. I don't think they've won in like 9 or 10 games. I mean, I'll just read out their recent results. Lost 2-0 away against Oxford, lost 4-0 away against Coventry, a 3-3 draw at home against Middlesbrough, 2-0 away loss against Sheffield United, 2-1 home loss against Swansea, 4-0 away loss against Bristol City, 6-1 away loss against Norwich City, 2-2 draw at home against Watford, 1-1 draw away from home against Derby County. They won 1-0 against Portsmouth. That's their most recent game where they've actually won, and that was all the way back on the 5th of November, so almost 2 months ago. It's been absolutely torrid for Plymouth Argyle, particularly for the away fans as well. Now, I can't stress this enough. For you guys that don't know the UK, that don't know England, Plymouth is basically in the far southwest corner of the country. It's in an area of the country known as Devon, and basically that's the middle of nowhere when it comes to football. Like, the closest team for them is probably like Portsmouth maybe, but that's like a good 2-3 hour drive away. Away trips with Plymouth, like for those Plymouth fans, if they went all the way up to Sheffield, for example, on the 14th of December, that's a good 6-7 hour drive at least each way. And for those fans to travel that amount of distance and see their team lose badly almost every week must be absolutely sickening. I really have my hat off to those people, because honestly, to do that you're a true football fan. People will take the mick about small away followings and stuff like that, but if you're one of the hardcores doing trips like that, you deserve all the props that come in your way. But the team don't deserve any props. And I saw a stat today, and I don't know how true this is, but I saw a stat today saying that Plymouth fans collectively, if you go for both getting to the away stadium and getting back, they have collectively so far this season, if they've been to every single game, travelled over 8,000 miles, which is probably greater than the distance between London and like LA. It's probably like London to Alaska or something like that. It's a long way. But they've done that amount of distance on the road and they haven't seen their side win once. It's been absolutely torrid. I'll admit it's not the easiest job. It's not the easiest position to be in. And at the end of the day, anybody's going to struggle who's going to come in. But it's not a surprise at all that Wayne Rooney has been sacked. It has very much been coming. So now the question is, who will take over? Who are the bookies' odds? Who are the favourites to actually take over this position? Interestingly, one of the favourites is a guy that I have not heard of before, Anthony Barry. Now, Anthony Barry has never managed a senior side before. He has, though, been an assistant manager at some really big clubs, most notably working under Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea and Bayern Munich as well. He's also he's currently working actually as the assistant manager at Portugal. He has also worked at the assistant manager position for the Republic of Ireland, Belgium, and also Wigan Athletic early in his career as well. And before that, he had an EFL career with the likes of Coventry, Wrexham, Forest Green Rovers, Fleetwood Town, Accrington Stanley. Who are they? And Yeovil Town as well back in the day. So probably some National League sides in there as well at various points. But yeah, he's one of the favourites. I think that'd be a really bold appointment. He's never managed a senior side himself, so to go from being an assistant manager to that is a big step up. Although, to be fair, as much as I hate to admit it, you know, Sheffield Wednesday did that with Danny Roll, of course, who and I don't think he had ever managed a senior side before, only managing the likes of Bayern Munich. So maybe it'll be something of that kind of ilk. What would be an absolute coup for them would be to sign Liam Rosenior, but that's never going to happen for me. For some reason, he's one of the bookies' favourites. I don't understand that one personally. He most recently managed Hull City last season. I think he did an excellent job as manager for them and was very, very unjustly sacked. He was nominated for manager of the season, I believe, and was sacked by Hull. So that club's a bit of a mess right now, to say the least. But he's currently managing Strasbourg over in Ligue 1 in France, so I don't really see him jumping ship and going to Plymouth, really, especially when it's a bit of a sinking ship in the Championship. Alex Neil was linked with the job recently, but he has, in fact, gone to Millwall, so he's not going to be going there. Nigel Pearson is a name that's been thrown around a bit. He's most recently managed Bristol City. I don't know if he's living in that part of the world still. He's not from that part of the world, of course, but yeah, he's an interesting one. I don't think that's a very inspired one. His last few jobs have not gone particularly well. Didn't do well at, was it Derby? He was manager of Derby for a little bit. That didn't go well. Bristol City didn't go well. I think Nick Pearson's a likely option, but he's not a particularly great one. Well, who could be a good one, though, would be Paul Cook. Now, Paul Cook, of course, is manager of League Two side Chesterfield. I think this could be a realistic appointment for him, but would Cook want to go from, Chesterfield, who are a side that are challenging for promotion in League Two, back-to-back promotions on the cards? They're on the edge of the playoffs as things stand. Will he want to go from there to almost certainly in relegation? Because as bad as Rooney was, and he absolutely deserved to go, I'm not going to argue that point, but you look at Plymouth's squad and it's not a surprise where they are, put it that way. It's not. It really isn't. They are deservedly one of the worst teams in the Championships. They deserve to be there. So we'll see. I mean, for me, the most likely out of those is Nigel Pearson, but the best, most realistic one, if that makes any sense, a bit of a combination of the two, would be probably Paul Cook. And if they really want to go for someone left field, then perhaps Barry would be a good option. But we'll see what happens. Plymouth fans, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your thoughts on this? How bad have Plymouth been away from home? Because it seems, looking from the outside, that they've been absolutely abysmal for this season. So it's fair to say that Manchester United's part owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, has been making some tough and difficult and unpopular decisions. And that's his own words recently too. He's trying to get Manchester United back to being a dominant force in English and European football, and he's basically said that, look, I need to make some tough decisions to be able to do that. And he's referred to things such as shaking the staff up. Obviously, we've had some pretty high profile members of staff leave the club, but on top of that as well, there's been a lot of people that's been made redundant, just general staff at the stadium, the average Joes, Johns and Georges and Janes of this world losing their job because of the changes in policy, really, when it comes to Manchester United. But as bad as that is, and it is bad, of course, I'm not going to defend that. I think that's awful what's happened there. A lot, hundreds of people have lost their job. That is very indefensible, I will be honest. But this is probably potentially the worst of the lot. So there's a charity that Manchester United support, and basically the club gave around £40,000 per year to it, and they have since now prevented themselves from doing so. They're no longer going to give that donation every year. £40,000. Now, obviously, to me and you, £40,000, that's a lot of money, right? That's more money than a lot of people make in a year. But £40,000 to Manchester United Football Club, I mean, that's just over a tenth of what they pay Marcus Rashford a week to not even play football as things stands, just to be on the sidelines and sulk at the moment. That's kind of what's happening with him. So that just puts the perspective of this amount of money into perspective, really. It contextualizes it to average people, to people who need it. That's a lot of money. But to Man United, it's not a lot of money at all. This is a club that spends, almost £100 million on some players. And they've spent well over £100 million in this summer transfer window just gone. And believe you me, they will spend more than that next summer as well. Probably not in January coming up, but definitely in the summer as Amarin looks to get some more signings in. So let's have a look at what's going on here, guys. Let's have a look at the justification for this, because for me, I don't really know what justification they can possibly give, but let's have a look at what's been said here. Full article on goal.com. The Association of Former Manchester United Players, AFMUP, has been receiving a significant sum from the club since 1985, but claims it has not received the last two quarterly payments of £10,000. The decision to cease funding has sparked concern among AFMUP trustees, who see the cut as jeopardising the long-standing support provided to former players who contributed to the club in the pre-Premier League era. More on that at the end. So why's this happened? What's the bigger picture here? AFMUP was established nearly 4 decades ago to foster a sense of community among former Manchester United players, including those who did not make any first-team appearances but signed a professional contract with the club. The charity organises 4 annual events for these individuals and offers financial assistance for causes such as funerals and local children's charities. What's been said about this cut? Jim Elms, an 84-year-old trustee and former United youth and reserve team player, expressed dismay at the abrupt halt in funding. "We sent a letter out to say we've not been paid," he told the Telegraph. "Nobody came out and nobody told us, so we had to send out another letter. That's when we started hearing things that it was going to be the end for us." According to Elms, United's chief executive Omar Barada delivered the news shortly before Christmas. Great timing. Omar was non-committal. "He's going to meet us again in January, but he said he couldn't see it changing," Elms said. "He didn't seem to think that we were a necessity." Wow. "We've ran it since 1985, keeping the old players together, looking after the ones that couldn't pay for funerals. I just can't understand them. It's ridiculous. We give away around £10,000 to £20,000 to charity, mostly children's charities in the local area. We've had £20,000 this year, but not the rest of it." So yeah, relatively short article there. I'll just go over this last bit in the footer of the article here. Ratcliffe's decision to withdraw financial support has been met with criticism, as many view the move as dismissive of the club's rich history and the individuals who contribute to its legacy before the Premier League era's financial boom. The Red Devils will return to the pitch on Monday evening against Newcastle United at Old Trafford. So yeah, it's nothing short of disgusting that this has been done, and without even telling them. As bad as this is, the least that you could do is be honest about it. And I'm not saying that would justify this. I am not saying that whatsoever, because it isn't. But that's another wrong on all this as well. You got to at least let them know. These people are... What if a former United player passed away, couldn't afford his funeral, right? And then they were kind of, relying on this charity to be able to have that happen, and then they're expecting this money to come in let's say, I don't know, September or whatever. Player passes away in September. Oh, we're going to need to pay for that now. Oh, we've not got the money from Man United yet. Where is it? What's going on? That it could have ended in an embarrassing incident like that, and it might well have done for all I know. I bring you guys a lot of news on Man United at the end of the day, but I don't know if a situation like that has happened. I would guess not, because otherwise there would be a lot of uproar about it. And I'm sure there'll be some people watching this saying, well, hey, these are former footballers. They're rich, they got a lot of money. They should be able to afford their own funeral. What's going on here? Well, like the article kind of alludes to, this isn't for the likes of, I don't know. Obviously these guys are relatively young, but this isn't for the likes of the Ryan Giggs, the David Beckhams, the Gary and Phil Nevilles. This charity is for people before that, and people potentially in the Premier League era as well, who signed contracts but never made appearances for the club, never became... the thing is, right, we always see these footballers and they're incredibly rich, some of them, right? They are absolutely multi-millionaires many times over, but not all of them are. Very few of them are. It's like the top 1% that are like that, the top 2%. A bit like society as a whole, really. Just because you work for a bank doesn't mean you're going to automatically be rich, despite some incredibly rich people working at the top of banks. You wouldn't see that, I don't know, someone down on the ground in the reception or whatever, you wouldn't say those guys are millionaires. So it's kind of a similar thing here too. So for me to cut this funding without any justification, and like I said, I know they're trying to cut costs, I know that, I get that, but £40,000 a year for this makes a huge difference to the people who played for Man United before they were this global phenomenon and with the Premier League. I know they've always been a huge club. I know they won the European Cup in 1968. I know this, right? And everybody watching this probably knows this too. They've always been one of the biggest clubs in England. That is a fact, right? They just have been. They're like Liverpool in that regard. They've always been there pretty much for as long as anybody can remember, and even longer than that in some cases, right? So I think it's a disgusting decision. I really do. And to not even inform, not even be honest about it, I think that shows a complete lack of respect right there. You could maybe, potentially, possibly in some circumstances, justify it. I'm sure some people would try to, but at least be honest about it. Don't hide behind this. It's just a cowardly and pathetic thing to do. You know, you've got to own up. You've got to be honest about this. But hey, there we go. I'm just a guy giving his opinion on camera about football, the game that I love. But sometimes when you see stuff like this, you do realise that the beautiful game has a dark, ugly underbelly at times, because there's some things that happen where you're just like, that can't be real. Oh, it is real. What the hell is going on? But that's just my take, guys. I don't know if people disagree with me or agree with me on this one, but this needs to be highlighted, because it is disrespect of the highest or lowest order, depending how you want to look at it. But what's your take, guys? Should that funding be reinstated? Should they at least have, told them about it? Because they would have been expecting that money. They have no reason to think that money wouldn't have come in until it didn't come in. So Marcus Rashford has been in the news a lot recently, and not for good reasons. Obviously, he's been out of the matchday squad for Manchester United for a number of weeks now, basically not being good enough to play, not being up to the standard of being able to play for Man United. And that is very troubling, given the fact that he is one of the highest earners at the club, and also the fact that really there's been a lot of injuries for Man United, so there is no reason why he shouldn't be starting. He should be good enough to start for that side, especially as they're struggling so much. But even though they're struggling so much, he's not good enough. He's not on the team sheet anywhere. So the question that I wanted to ask today, basically because Rashford is in a really awkward position right now. He's got a massive contract that's going to run for a number of years. He could just sit on that and earn £350,000 a week, £300,000 a week, however much it is. I see both of those figures sent out a lot, but at the end of the day, that is his basic wage, quote unquote. That's before any bonuses that he might get. Obviously, if he doesn't play, he won't get those bonuses, but in theory he could just sit out his contract and be effectively awarded for doing nothing, just coming in, training, and that's it. 350 grand a week, which is crazy. That's like what the average person earns in a single year, 10 times over every single week for this dude. It's incredible, really. But how do I see this kind of playing out? Well, I've already given my thoughts on that, but the bigger question is, for me, something that's been kind of floated, something I've heard some people talking about, is should footballers be paid for the performances rather than at just a basic wage? Well, there's a lot of problems with this. I understand the ethos of it, and there are some extreme cases, some edge cases as it were, such as Marcus Rashford, that do kind of make you think, well, maybe this should change. Maybe this isn't working. And I understand that. I get that. But at the end of the day, they sign a contract. This isn't the players' fault, by the way. This is the club's. The clubs offer these contracts, and they get themselves in these difficult positions like this. Because now, again, taking Rashford as an example, because I think he's a very prevalent one, a very current one, a very relevant one. Who's going to take Rashford for 3 a week? I mean, he might well leave to go to a Spurs and be on half of that. I don't even think they'd offer him half. I think they'd offer him like 50, 100k a week, which is still a lot of money, but it's like a third, a seventh of what he's on currently. So would he take it? Well, that's up to him. He doesn't have to. There's no grounds to sack the guy. He hasn't done anything particularly egregious. I mean, the worst thing I think he's done is go out for a meal with his family on his birthday recently was it Belfast, Dublin? It might have been Manchester, I can't remember, but he's not done anything particularly egregious, I don't think, anyway. So they don't got grounds to sack him. So again, he's just going to sit out his contract, and that'll have people thinking, well, he's not doing anything for the club, why is he being paid that much? And again, the club has got itself in that position. But if you do the whole paid on performance thing, then what about injured players that are always injured? Reece James would barely be earning anything. Luke Shaw would barely be earning anything. And again, some people might say, well, that's fair enough, they're not playing. But is it really their fault that they keep getting knee injuries? Is that bad professionalism? Is that poor sportsmanship that does that? Or is it just plain bad luck? Some players get more injured than others. It's just natural. And yeah, some are more professional than others. I mean, I don't doubt that the likes of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo have, they've avoided any kind of really serious injuries over their 20+ year careers because they are consummate professionals, on top of being two of the most naturally gifted footballers ever to play the game. That, of course, plays a part, but would you really say that's fair on that side of things? So injuries is part of it. And the other part of it is that, players are partly paid on their performance as well. They have goal bonuses, appearance bonuses, match day squad inclusions, assist bonuses. The contracts these days in football are a lot more than a basic wage. They have all kinds of performance clauses in there and all sorts of that. Like for a lot of clubs in the Premier League, they'll have a relegation clause where like, oh, well, if the club goes down, then your wage will be cut by 30%, 40%. And you know, honestly, I know it's probably people are probably going to roll their eyes at this, but if you want to get a good idea of what football contracts are like, play Football Manager. You know, that is actually pretty accurate in terms of the amount of performance bonuses, the clauses in there, wage rises, things like that. It's all in there. And anybody that's had a permanent job in terms of having a salary and a position, they'll have a little bit of things like that potentially there too. In their contract, it might say that they have a company phone, a company laptop, a company car. They get a yearly wage rise of this. They get a Christmas bonus of this. It is not dissimilar for footballers in that sense. It is a job. So part of the wage does come from bonuses. It does come from effectively their performances, because a lot of their bonuses are performance related. So for me, I understand the sentiments of it. I know why people are saying it. I know why some Man United fans are saying it, because they're very frustrated about the situation where you've got Rashford wage wise taking up the space of potentially 2-3 players that could come in and do a better job. I would certainly say do a better job right now, because at least they'd be playing. Rashford, for me, I believe honestly that he's done. I really do think he's done at Man United, and I've already done a video going over that. But it's, where do you offload him? Where does he go? Where can he go? It is such a difficult question to answer, and I don't feel sorry for him, because he's made the rod for his own back here. He absolutely has, but it's a sad situation, because as an England football fan, I honest to God think that Rashford, talent-wise, is up there with some of the best forwards that we've got. But at the end of the day, he's not performing. He's not doing enough. It's a bit of a wasted talent situation, unfortunately, right now. And this is a guy that isn't getting any younger either. You know, he's approaching 30. I think he's 27 now, something like that. He's not a young player anymore. So this should really be the time when he's at the peak of his powers. But he's just sitting in the reserves, just training. He's not even playing. So yeah, that's my kind of thoughts on it, guys. I understand the sentiment of making footballers' wages purely performance based, but at the end of the day, if clubs as well, if they put some sort of contract clause in there that says, well, if you don't play 15 games a season, your wage will be docked. And that is something that I believe, in theory, according to contract law, they could do that, but then it would never get through, because who would sign it? Players don't have to sign contracts. And then you also get into the realms of, FIFA Pro, the Professional Footballers Association. They'd get involved and say, nah, this is wrong, mate. No chance. You're not allowed to do that. So in reality, in theory, it could be done, but in reality, it would never work. And you would disadvantage your club for doing that. And that's the reality of the situation. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Should footballers pay all be 100% performance based, or should it be as it is now? Do the contracts work right now? Because a lot of people complain about footballers' contracts and saying they're not right. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and of course, like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well, and we'll see you very soon for some more football content right here on thefootballchronicle.com. Have a good one, guys, and a happy new year when it comes in.